Estate Experiment. What is happening, y'all? Today we got John Okocha in the building, in the lab, stepped in. You're dialing in from Dallas, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We're in the what is it right now? It is what? Are we in August already? Jeez. Anyways,
Yeah.
I always like to check in. It sounds like you're looking fantastic. You're doing well. Everyone's healthy, so that's good. We're gonna get a chance to talk a little bit about, the impacts of everything that's been going on. But most importantly, I want to find out about, I always say this, look, your reflection of, your business. And I always like to get to know the people behind first. And so I'm going to turn to that before, I introduce, your company, Elevate Commercial Investment Group. I want to know who John is. We started talking a little bit about it, but tell the people who you are, brother. Where are you from? Who is John? What are your core values? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Let's level set with that, brother.
So my name is John Okocha. I'm from the Dallas area originally, born and raised here. My parents were actually born in Nigeria. They immigrated here in the 80s, and I was born in the 90s. Went to Texas A&M University, studied economics, and actually while I was in high school, one of my good friends of mine gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. So when I read that book, it sparked my interest in real estate investment. And I took that interest and developed it over time after going to seminars and getting into wholesaling and learning from a lot of different people. I started to develop the interest of multifamily and multifamily syndication.
Okay, so this is interesting because it sounds like, you told us your background, where you come from. You look relatively young in the game, but you're crushing it. So I definitely want to hear how you kind of made that you elevated to the level that you are now with your company. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the VP of acquisitions. So you are a money man, right? Am I correct? You're the guy who makes sure. I know there's a lot that goes into a deal, but it happens in phases. And so we're really excited to talk about that. But I guess, how does the transition go from that meeting that you initially had? You read the book, right? And then you go to a seminar. Then what happens between now and then?
Yeah, so I went to a seminar and they spoke. It was a free seminar. And
we've all been to those, by the way.
Sorry?
Yeah, we've all been to those seminars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were selling the 3-day course. Like 3-day course will teach you everything you need to know about real estate investment, which of course isn't the case, right?
Yeah.
But I remember being the first person back of the room to buy the course. They said, hey, if you go to the back of the room, you're first person, we'll throw something in for free or something. I remember being the first person in the back of the room. At the time, I was, I believe, 17. I was working at like McDonald's or something. And I paid with it with my own money. Like I used the money I was working and I bought it myself, the course. And I did the 3-day course. And then
So you bought the 3-day course, and then with your own money, you said, I'm all in. Did you bring anyone with you, or literally just by yourself?
I believe it was by myself. The seminar, it was by myself. The 3-day weekend, the 3-day weekends, the first and second day, I believe, was by myself. I believe the third day I might have brought maybe that same guy that the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think I might have brought him and then brought my parents. So I brought both of them. I wanted them to see what it was all about because they're trying to pitch us on mentoring and stuff like that. Yeah. And my parents actually helped chip in and help buy me a mentoring package. The funny thing is, the mentors there weren't the ones who really mentored me, but it was someone that when I was doing the action items that they gave me, one of the things they told me to do is find cash buyers. So what I did is I went online and I searched for cash buyers. I remember just getting on the phone and just calling and asking people, do you buy houses? Do you do this, do that? Trying to add people to my cash buyers list. And one of the guys that I called just started giving me just free information. Just started giving me the game just for free. And I'm wondering whoa, I need to meet this guy. I'm like, hey, can I meet you? I'll buy you lunch. I'll whatever. And I met with him and he's like, hey, I'll teach you and we'll just split everything 50-50. And so I started doing some wholesale deals. But at the time, I was about to go to college and my parents, I don't know if you guys are very familiar with Nigerian parents, but my mom and my dad, they're like, I can't have a son that doesn't go to college. So you're going to college. And I went to college. I was there for, I went to commerce, Texas A&M Commerce for 1 year. And in that 1 year period, I did maybe three wholesale deals. And then
while you were in school?
While I was in school, yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive. Okay.
And I used that money to actually pay for like my sophomore year. I used it to pay for my rent for like the entire year, the next year.
Okay, yeah, so you took, so this was almost like a proof of concept, showing the parents saying like, I'm onto something here.
Yeah, and then I transferred out. Then I transferred to Texas A&M University. When I transferred there, I kind of didn't really pay that much attention to real estate. I was still going to different seminars and different things like that, but my interest changed a little bit. I started looking more into wealth management. Ended up getting an internship and in financial advising. So I got my Series 7, Series 66, got my insurance license. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be a financial advisor. I'm gonna, do it a different route. Like I might, what I'll do is I'll do financial advising and maybe buy like real estate on the side. That was my goal initially, and I got into it and I was in it for about a year. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I just left. One of my good friends, I was talking to him and he was like, hey John, like, if this isn't what you want to do, like you have to leave right now. So
that's very interesting, and I want to touch on that. You're hitting so many good points. I want to make sure we kind of, backtrack as well, because I think those are gems that you're leaving. So first of all, I like this conversation of, when finding out when something is just not clicking anymore. Can you walk us through like what that felt like? Was it a gradual, or was it kind of like right away? Like, nah, like which one was it? Do you recall?
It was more of a gradual kind of thing, but
what was it though? What was it about the gradual, like that gradual? Like, is it kind of like you feel like you're dragging yourself to work? Is it kind of like no fulfillment? Like, can you describe what that feels like? Because I think that will resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a realization. You think you're doing what you're supposed to do, but you realize you're not. In that case, I was going to work. I was learning about different things. I wasn't as interested. The people that I was working with, they didn't have as much drive as I did. It seemed like what I was doing wasn't as complicated. I like talking to people, and the floor that I was working on, it was in Uptown Dallas, and I was working out of an office. And most of the guys I was working with been there for maybe 1 or 2 years and didn't know everybody on the floor. But me, I like talking to people, so I knew like everybody on the floor. I'd talk and say hi to everyone. One of the guys that owned his own business, that was his office was a couple of doors down. I remember I would stop in and say hi and talk to him a little bit. And one of the things I remember him telling me is like, "Hey John, you know what you're doing. You can make a lot of money doing it, but is it challenging you? Is this something that's actually challenging you? Anybody can do what you're doing right now. Like anybody can, be a financial advisor. And you just."
Wait, so that's so interesting. Hold on, wait a minute. Why? What do you think he meant by that? Like, did he see more in you, or like was he kind of speaking more from maybe his perspective? I'm curious. Like, what did it mean? What did that mean to you when someone says that?
He saw more in me. He was like, he was basically saying that I was undercutting myself. Like I'm undercutting my skill set, my abilities, that I could do a lot way more than what I'm doing right now. I would ask him different questions. I would ask him advice. At that time, I was really interested in learning more about hedge funds and private equity and different things like that, which is part of the reason why I believe I even got into wealth management. Because I guess I kind of thought that was my route into that space as well. But now I'm basically doing a combination of real estate and funds. But what we do is we do multifamily syndication, which we raise the fund, we raise equity, and then we buy a business. But in our business is the apartment complex.
Absolutely. Oh, we're gonna get to the meat and the potatoes. Don't you worry. I just think it's just so important to kind of start with this, because I think you're part of the reason why we call the lab the experiment is because real estate is such a huge umbrella, and part of the experiment is experimenting different things. And what I love about your stories, I'm hearing, the seminar, I'm hearing, figuring out, what was fulfilling and what wasn't, or you talk about experiences, meeting people, and like you're gathering all this data so then you can then, essentially double down once you've experimented enough. So I think that's one of our core values. Kind of, you got to go broad at first, then you kind of niche down, and you have to experience things, and you can't just sit at home. Yet you went to the seminar, you met people, you got on the phone, you went people, like, and we love that. Like, you're a true embodiment of what the lab is all about. And so I tip my hat to you for that, and to all of our listeners. It's a great way to go. And so I'm going to relate it back to where we are today, but there are some gems that you left behind that I do not want them to slip through the cracks. All right. So one of the things that I heard is you talked about people in your environment not having the same drive at you, and I think that's so important. And I don't know if you wanted to just touch on that a bit, but I want to bring that to light, because I think that's so important to be in an environment. And I see you have a wonderful team today, which we're going to talk about, but being in that environment where people are elevating you. And I have to go back, because I think we sometimes we may miss these people in our lives who tell us things maybe at the surface level. Did you ever get a chance to go back to that gentleman or that or that woman, I'm not sure who it was, who saw a little bit more in you, and asked them maybe, like, were they at a position where they had seen something like this before? Like, I'm so curious, like, did you get a chance to ever follow up, or even after, or thank that person, or even get a chance to understand where they were coming from?
I need to do that. I haven't had a chance to do that.
Gems.
I have his number. I'm going to give him a call. And if that number doesn't work, I'm going to go back to that office and I'm going to find it. But I'd like to touch on your point again with the environment. So one thing that my dad always told me growing up, even in high school, was to always hang out with people that were smarter than me. That's what he always told me. He said, no matter what, always hang out with people that are smarter than you. Always. Like, never be the smartest person in the room. Like, never. And I've always taken that to, I've always taken that to heart and really paid attention to that. Even in high school, I wasn't a straight A student, but I've always tried to force myself into classes that were, had all the smartest people in it. So I try to take all AP classes and honors classes and all that stuff. Even though I wouldn't get A's in these classes, I would just want to surround myself with these kinds of people. And when I did that, even in high school, when I did that, I remember one day sitting next to someone who was getting ready to take the pre-AP test, and she put in a different graduation year for her year. And I was wondering, wait, are you graduating? How are you graduating, a year earlier than everyone else? And she was like, oh, you just ask your counselor. I was like, really? That's all you have to do? I was like, yeah. So the same day, I go and I ask my counselor, hey, how do I graduate a year early? And she looks at my classes, like, usually people that ask this don't have the classes, but if you just take these extra classes and go to summer school, you'll graduate a year early. And that's what I did. I graduated a year early, and I never would have done that. One, if I didn't take that advice, and two, if I didn't surround myself with the people that were doing, were trying to excel and do more, different things. Because there's a lot of things that we don't know that we don't know. Yes. That we only will know if we have exposure to the right people.
Oh my goodness, man. You are literally preaching and dropping bars. I mean, that's exactly what I always preach. It's like, and this is why, I have the pleasure of having people like you step into the lab. You're way ahead of the game. You're doing things and you're elevating not only, myself as I'm getting all this new information or reaffirmations, but you're also elevating the community. So we thank you for that. But first of all, that's so fascinating. I'm over here taking notes as you're dropping all these gems, and I want to go back to where you are, or I should say, go forward to where you are today, because it's so interesting what you said. You're talking about surrounding yourself. It's like unconscious competence. You don't know what you don't know, right? And 100%. Now you do know, and now you're able to act on it, which I think pretty much is, you're showing consistency in your journey, which is really cool. So fast forward to today. We talked about the seminars. We talked about, you kind of getting into the wealth management space, trying, that career, fast tracking with school. Now you are with Elevate Commercial Investment Group, VP of Acquisitions. How did that role come about? And talk about, your team and, what your position means for your team. I'm so excited to hear.
Yeah, so I was doing wholesaling, and then I worked in the financial advising And when I quit from financial advising, I looked at different companies or different ideas. What I was planning on doing is I was just planning on wholesaling myself. And I went to a couple of meetup events, and I met someone who told me about a certain company that I could work for, and they said, "Hey, John, instead of just like wholesaling, why don't you just sell houses? You have somebody that finds the houses for you, and you just sell them." I thought, that's better than me finding a house. That's me not doing all the work. I could make more money doing that. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to do that. So I got my real estate license, and then started working for that company. I was there for about maybe 6 to 8 months, and then one of the investors, one of the investors that I was planning on selling houses to, was like, "Hey, I want to meet with you." And I met with him, went into his office. He was sitting across, and I started telling him about the deals that we had. Like, we're doing this deal, this deal, this deal. This is why you should, buy from me. I'll make sure you get your return and everything. And he kind of just like sits back and looks at me. And he's like, "You know what? Like, I don't want to buy from you. I want you to buy from me." he just sits across and like, "Instead of selling houses to me, why don't you just buy from me?" And I was like, I'll think about it. And he's like, "You know what? I'll pay you more than whatever you're getting paid right now."
So take me a step back. What does that mean, buy houses? I want to understand his business model and how you would come in and that, because so let's take a step back. You got your license. You're now officially, it sounds like you're working in-house, and you're, I guess, you're selling homes that have already been, I guess, acquired by that company, and you're kind of like a listing agent? Like, take a step back, because maybe I missed something there. How does that work?
It was a wholesale investment company.
Oh, okay. So you're actually wholesaling. Okay. So how does that work with the license?
So I guess we technically didn't need our license, but it was one of the requirements that I needed to work there.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my license, and they would find the deals. So there would be the acquisition side and then the disposition side. I was on the disposition side, and the acquisitions, they would find the deals, and the dispositions would sell the deals. And what I would do is I would find different investors that met the criteria for the different deals that they would that we would have, whether it be things that were for rent or things that were for a quick flips.
Okay, so essentially you have like a bulk portfolio of houses, and you have basically a phone book per se, going back to the basics, and you're basically kind of fostering relationships and saying, "Hey man, we got all these. This is your return. This is your criteria you're telling me about. Let's get these off." You want to get this off your inventory, and you want to, So that's interesting. Did I get that right?
100%, you got it.
Okay, so now you're sitting in this office, and this gentleman is telling you that he wants, instead of doing the disposition, he wants you to buy for him. Like, help me understand how that would help. Did that even make sense to you at the time, or did you know the acquisition side, or how did that work? I want to understand.
Well, I did know a little bit of it because I did some wholesaling at the beginning. But when it came to talking to homeowners, so I did, I was familiar with talking with scripts and talking to different homeowners and negotiating price and telling them, "Hey, we can't do this, but we can do it for this price." I was kind of familiar with that. And there was actually another person who used to work for the same company that I worked for doing dispositions, that went to that company and was doing very well for himself. So I saw him doing that, and I was like, I should definitely, there's a path. There's a path here, and so I can just
proof of concept. Okay, so walk us through that next step. So what was that? Was that a done deal, right on the spot?
So what I did is I did a ride along with one of the top agents there that worked for top acquisition agents at this company, which was the guy that used to be at the former company. And, he was telling me about it. He's like, "Hey man, I'm doing this and that. It's
Don't get shy. Come on, drop some numbers. The people want to know, man. What's going on? Per transaction, give us numbers."
He's like, "Man, I'm making a killing over here. I'm living good. You just come over, man. Like,
just selling the dream."
He's like, "Hey, man, I can do Dallas County. You can do Tarrant County. If there's a person that we have wholesalers, because what we would do is we would buy from wholesalers and we'd also buy from homeowners." And what I was telling him was like, "Hey, man, you can do Dallas and I'll do Tarrant County." Or I was like, whatever county you want, let's work together. We can do deals together. Let's both make money together. we'll both like make money together, that kind of thing. And it worked out very, very well. Things were going very, very well. I was making money there at that company, and things started to get kind of weird at that company. Like, I'm not going to mention the company, but
Yeah, absolutely.
started getting kind of weird there. And around that time, one of the wholesalers that I was buying from, that I was doing business with, that I bought multiple properties from, was actually one of the partners at Elevate. So it goes to show, like, make sure you treat people
Burn no
right
bridges.
at all times. At all times. It was actually one of the partners at Elevate, and so we already had a business relationship. And I was telling one of the agents, one of the agents at Elevate, like, hey, like, I'm, not like where I'm working right now is probably not the best place. And she was telling me, like, hey, John, you should definitely come on to our side. We'd love to have you, that kind of thing. And the funny thing is, I said no. I'm not interested. Like, I'm not interested in single family. She was like, oh, like she was like, oh, like, I think you should do it. I was like, no, like, I'm not interested, right? And
now, when you say no, John, was that because you had a different vision, or because it sounds like you guys elevated, pun intended? But I'm curious though, like, what was your mindset? Because you were in single family. When you say no, were you thinking the next thing has to be multifamily?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking the next thing had to be multifamily, and I wasn't going to do anything else. I was thinking I'd never want to see another single family house ever again. That was my head.
Why? Tell the people why.
And it's this is just my experience.
Absolutely.
And it's, when you're wholesaling, you're holding people's hands. You're holding the buyer's hand, you're holding the seller's hand. You have to make sure everyone's happy. It's like babysitting, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. I just didn't want to. I wanted to be the money. I wanted to be the person actually buying the property. That's what I wanted. I didn't want to be the middleman.
Okay, so you say no. Then where does that get you?
So I say no, and she said, okay, and then a couple of weeks later, she said, she texts me again. She says, hey, I'd like to grab lunch with you. Like, okay, sure, why not? And so we grab lunch and we're talking, and she's like, I really think you should take the time and just talk with Eric Badiwala, which is one of the partners at Elevate. We think just talk the time and just talk with him and see whether or not you would like fit on the single family side. And I'm like, what, I'm just gonna just for her, like, she's a really good friend. I'll do it. I'll see what's up. And I'm talking, and I get on the phone with Eric, and I'm talking to Eric. He's telling me about, like, what they're doing on the single family side, and the leads and all the relationships they have and everything. And and at the end of the conversation, I was like, hey, I'm not interested in single family at all. I'm not interested. And and he tells me, he's like, oh, well, we actually just bought a deal in Temple, Texas. We just bought 37 units, and we're actually looking for someone that help us on the acquisition side. And I'm like, yeah, I could definitely do that. I could definitely do that, right? And we all met. So that's when I met George for the first time. So me, Eric, George, we're all meeting. We're talking about it. I was like, hey, this is what we can do. We're talking about, like, what my role would be and what things that we could do. And but he also said, like, hey, this is going to be like a kind of like a 30-day kind of trial period. We'll see, like, if it works in 30 days, like, if everything turns out in 30 days, like, if you'll stay on, if, that kind of thing. And within 30 days, I had an LOI for over 400 units. And I just remember being in the car, and, we're all just like, we just got done touring the second property. We just got touring a second property in Oklahoma, and then we just got an LOI on. And he's like, yeah, I think you could stay on the team,
Wow. So hold on. I need to bring this full circle. So first of all, I'm so, like, seriously, I'm so stoked about all that you're saying, because I'm recently practicing the power of saying no in our company, right? Do you do this? No, we don't. And I think it's so powerful for you to, like, without you saying no, you might have just been put into a route that you didn't really want, but you knew what you wanted. And to be honest, when you were talking, I had no idea that this was where it was going. I was thinking that, like, there was a transition, but evidently started with your no, and I think that's so powerful for us to know what we want and don't want, which is
100%.
kind of rooted back to, again, your literally your blueprint that you've been living, which is phenomenal. Number 2, this is now the meat and the potatoes. LOI, letter of intent for a 400 unit. You just got into this role. For those of us who are listening and who may not be familiar with what, I guess acquisitions manager, is that what you would call it? How do you foster that? Like, how do you create an interest, or how do you get a 400 unit letter of intent, man?
So it was 2 different apartments. It was actually 2 different properties that added up to about 400 units. But
okay, essentially.
Same thing.
Yeah,
basically.
same idea. I know you're trying to downplay this. That's not gonna work, John. Not in the lab. We like to recognize and give you a pat on the back for what you've done. Nice try. But seriously, tell us, what is the day-to-day? What was those 30 days like for someone who's thinking what does an acquisitions manager do, and how are you able to pull that off?
It's interesting. So there's multiple ways of finding deals. One of them is going on. So there's a similar to the MLS, but it's like the MLS on steroids. For the commercial world, it's called CoStar. So you go on CoStar, you can find a lot of different information on the different projects and different properties that might be for sale, might not be for sale. You can get a list of all the different owners in a certain area, in a certain market, and you can just cold call. And that's actually what they had me doing for the first 30 days. And I was getting some traction with that. But the funny thing is, I was also doing my own research, and always do your own research, also doing my own research on how to find deals. And one of the guys that I saw on YouTube was talking about, hey, go on LoopNet and call these brokers. It's these deals on LoopNet are not going to be deals, but the brokers on there are going to have deals, because they're actively in the market. So that's another thing I did, and that's actually one of the ways that we found the deals that we found was I was calling brokers, which I recommend, which is how I like to do it. Even in the single family side, what I specialize in is, negotiating with wholesalers. I liked negotiating with people who were selling the deal instead of selling their business. That was just something that I like doing. And the way I look at it is these brokers are already calling these CoStar lists, up and down. They're probably calling, 50 to 100 people a day. The way I look at it is if I call 50 brokers a day, then I've just called 5,000 people.
John, man, you're literally just unfolding all these gems that I've been literally preach. Funny enough, I've done the same thing, and then I realized, hey, I'm playing the wrong game. That's kind of how the real estate experiment happened. And I need to be networking with the people who literally do this for a living. That's what they do. They go on lunch, they meet people, they meet brokers, they sell their old properties, they'll come back to them. And I don't know where we get this idea that it's kind of why would you, it goes back to your whole leverage. Why am I trying to do something by myself when I can surround myself with people who are already ahead of the game, who know information that you might not know? Kind of when you fast track the course, how do I graduate early? They might know ways because they do this. They're brokers for a living. That's how they put their, food on the table. They might know ways that you might not know of. Therefore, it's a more efficient route to go. So it's just so refreshing to hear that again, and you saying it and you being the proof of concept in front of us, because I think that's so important, and I think it gets overlooked so much in this day and age. Or maybe it's just the hype that we see, depending on where we consume our information.
But not just that, but one of the things I try not to live by as well is when it comes to asking for advice, I always try to ask advice from someone who has what I want.
Absolutely.
I think it's in logic. I think it's a logical principle. They say that somebody can't give you what they don't have. They call it a logical principle. So if I have an orange, I can give you an orange. If I have an apple, I can give you an apple. But if I don't have either one, I can't give it to you, even if I want to. That's kind of how I look at it. I try to hang around with people that have the same vision that I do, and people that have what I want. That's how I try to frame it.
Dude, you couldn't have said it any better, and you're 100% right. I think what we need to be careful of, and this is, maybe let's tie this back to the whole seminar thing, because I do think that's important. I do think people are getting exposed to that a lot more. And one of the things that, I like to vet, whether I'm reading a book, whether I'm speaking to someone, it's, is there paradox of practice involved, or you actually do what you do? And I think you got to be very careful in this day and age, because I'm a believer in selling information. That's fantastic. But if you're, based on all the books that I read is, I'll put it a very simple example. If you're a listener, you've heard me say this before. It's, did you sell books to get to where you are, or did you do what, things as a practitioner, then wrote the book? And I'm going to go always with the latter, just because I want to learn it from the person who did it, not the theory. So you couldn't have said it any better. Okay, that's fantastic, because we've covered a lot of the elements. Fast forwarding to today, we talked about how good your team is. Well, we talked about how you got to your team. What does your day look like today? Because I really want to make sure we bring home, like, you talk acquisitions, VP of acquisitions today for Elevate Commercial Investment Group. You started by nurturing relationships with brokers, and that's what got you in the door. Does the game still look the same, or have you changed things up a little bit, or are you kind of just pouring fuel where the fire is right now?
Yeah, a little bit of all of that. It's interesting now that we have Elevate, and we're on a lot of social media platforms, and we're doing a lot of different things. So whether it's podcasts, we're doing seminars, we're having our own meetups, and we're doing a lot of different a lot of different social media things. And it's really helped us when it comes to getting deals, because there are other GPs that will reach out to us, and they will just tell us, like, hey, like, we have this deal. Do you want to be a part of it? So there's and networking is extremely important, extremely important. I mean, if there's one thing that I could tell, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, but if there's one thing that I'd recommend to someone, it's networking. I mean, that's how I found all of my jobs, out of college, and that's how I pretty much found it, pretty much everything, essentially. There was somebody that had the thing that I wanted, and I networked to get it. But even the deals that we're working on, there's a deal that we're raising on right now, and the guy that we met from the company that I'm working with right now, we met them at a networking event. So it turned out that George and Eric, they went to high school with one of the executive vice presidents of the companies that we're partnering with right now. And we never would have known if we never went to that event. And literally a month after that event, we had a deal under contract together.
So back on the networking, John. So it's crazy because it's so true, but I because we hear that word so often, and you're a savant, I just literally want to make sure that we break it down a little bit, and what that can look like for someone in the lab or in their own backyard, because I think it's thrown lightly. Like, networking doesn't just mean setting up a LinkedIn page and adding someone. So do you want to just touch a bit on you as the practitioner that you are, how you find yourself networking in your backyard?
Yeah, how I did it, how I started. And, I learned this from going to seminars too. So I would go on meetup.com. In single family, I would just go on meetup.com, and I would search all the real estate events in the area, and I would just go to all of them. I would go to all of them, and you meet a lot of different people. So that's what I did. And I'd do that, and did the same thing in multifamily. I would search it in multifamily meetups, and I would start going to them. I would start going to all of them.
Yeah, I love that, because that's very that's very direct, and I think it's as simple as that. Like, there's not this magic formula where you said, man, I'm running like a tripwire, and I'm running a funnel, and maybe you are good for you, but you've done the lowest hanging fruit, and you started meeting people. And I think that's the beauty of it too, because when you say you've met so many different people, you have to keep everything with a grain of salt, and like, okay, this is interesting. This is opening my eyes to something that I didn't know. And then you find that one person that you maybe can really resonate with. And over time you will. I know I have. Shout out to Bigger Pockets and all the meetups, man. It's unbelievable. So that's very good tactical. Is there anything else that you're doing at a level that maybe like a little secret sauce of that yours that's a little bit more, maybe a little bit more unique than we could have thought of? Or is it really as simple as meetups? What are your thoughts? You got another gem for us here, Experiment Nation? Come on, give us some.
I'd say just have a good time. Just like what you're doing, have a good time.
Yeah.
People will know if you're having a good time or not, and you'll attract. It's interesting. I don't know how this works. Well, I kind of do know how this works, but you'll go into a meetup, right, having a good time, and the person that you want to talk to will just walk up to you.
Energy, man.
I can't explain it. The person that you want to talk to, even if you don't know him, if you know him or don't, he's gonna walk up to you, or you just walk up to him and you start talking, and then instantly you're like, oh wow, like I was literally just thinking about talking to someone just like you.
Yeah, but again, you're going to the right place, and if you keep fishing, you're gonna get
100%.
the fish that you want. Because, and what we're also talking about, and for our listeners, I think it's important to hear, it's not like you're not going once. Mm-hmm. And then that didn't work out. I mean, anybody? No, like you're going consistently, and I think over time now, you've kind of built that, omnipresence and clout per se. So let's talk about that for a second, because I can't just let you leave the lab without tapping to what we specialize in, plug to invested talent. How important has social media been for you and your business, and how have you guys used it on the, you guys are playing at a scale, large scale multifamily apartments. Is this still really working? How so?
Wow, especially now during COVID, it's harder. There's not as many meetups. There might be some secret meetups. I haven't been to any, but but yeah, it's very, very important to now, especially to have an internet presence, a social media presence. It helps with raising capital. It helps with reminding people who you are. People really. This is one of the things that I've learned is people really just interact with the things that they see. That would. If they don't keep seeing you, they'll forget. That's the truth. Like if they don't keep seeing you, they're going to forget. That's just how it is. So you have to keep being in front of people.
Omnipresence. Where do you guys like to whether it's you, John, or Elevate Commercial Investment Group, where do you guys like to hang out the most right now?
Social media wise?
Yep.
That's a good question. We're everywhere. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. George, he's been really pushing me to get on social media and really start doing more posts, and that's something that I'm starting to do now. So and getting on more podcasts. Like I said earlier, you got to be around people that push you. He's been really, really like pushing me. Like, hey, get on podcasts, get on social media, do all this stuff. Have that presence and everything.
Yeah, again, tying it full circle, like people in your circle telling you, encouraging you to do what's best for not only you but the team too. Which brings us full circle, man. Like, where can we find out more? We heard LinkedIn, Instagram. Like, tell us, give us the plug, give us the handles, give us the website. We want to find out more about what you guys are doing out in. Well, that's another thing. Are you guys only in Dallas? Or you guys have expanded? Tell us.
Yeah, so we're in Houston, DFW area, and we're also in Oklahoma. We have a deal that we're working on right now in Oklahoma City, and we have another deal we're working on right now in South Dakota. And if you're interested in learning more about multifamily, you can just go on to elevate.cig.com and go in on the website, and you'll find out where you can download one of our little ebooks where you can see the top tips that we have for multifamily. And I'll also give you my email. And if you send me an email, I'll personally give you a tip. I'll personally give you our due diligence handbook when we look at properties, and also a couple other things as well.
Fantastic. And we can't wait to share that link, because as you can see, having you here in the lab, John stepping to the lab and giving us really the game, and really, I think what we do love having in the lab is the real tactical advice and core values that then, represents in your business. I could just, from all the gems you gave us, it just shows us, okay, this is why he's been able to partner with these wonderful individuals. This is why he's crushing it, and his whole team is winning, because he sees things this way. So thank you for bringing us a lot of enlightenment and into your world from within our lab. I really appreciate having you on the show, John. You crushed it.
Oh, I appreciate it. If there's one more last thing. So read the book Think and Grow Rich. It's a very, very good book. It basically summarizes a lot of the things that we've even talked about in this episode. So I'd highly recommend reading that book. It's a really, really good book, and it talks about tactical things on how to do this and how to apply it. Because really, the truth is, it's 90% mental, 10%, everything else.
Yeah, I mean, and then it just, we didn't have this plan, but it's just, it's always just hanging around, because we got to have these tools in the lab, right? Depending on what you have, we're just going to just.
And we didn't plan this, by the way. We didn't plan this, by the way.
It's not serendipity. If you're listening to this, I'm currently holding the book right now, because I couldn't be more in alignment with what John is preaching. And again, it just shows that, the more you listen to these guys that come in and give us so much value, there's the proof is in the pudding. So anything else that you'd like to leave with us, you give us the handles, we can find out more about you. We'll have everything in the show notes. Anything else you'd like to leave us with?
And just go for what you want.
Go for what you want, y'all. You heard it from the man himself. And just like that, we are out.